Let's talk now a little bit about workflow. We've been working off of this raw files directory, and all of these things are in there, but I have apportioned out in different folders different parts of the process. In folder 2, PDF to text, are the results of my running PDF to text on both PDFs. 2, Transcribus, is the result of my using OCR service Transcribus to transcribe to convert the texts to plain text. Directory 3 are the results of my converting the PDFs or select parts of the PDF to PNGs. There's some other directories in there, such as page and this doc.xml, because that's material left behind by Transcribus as it was doing its work. And then 4, Tesseract, is the result of my using Tesseract. Notice on the naming conventions, there appear to be the same page, but in different formats. In this case, this is the result of running Tesseract on page 37, where the resolution of the image is at 150 points per inch, another at 400 points per inch, and then another at 400 points per inch, but with the image lightened and enhanced. I've done similar things for the others. In thinking about your workflow, it's a good idea to begin with only a few pages and evaluate it. In this case, I have taken the texts, the first 2 pages of each version of the text, and I've corrected them by hand so that I can do a benchmark against some corrected text. That is, I can use the different OCR versions and compare them against actual corrected texts. You may ask, why would you do that? Well, because before you commit yourself to a lot of work, you want to see how good the work is so far and configure your system for your particular project. In this case, under the directory 5, plain text comparisons, you'll see that there's a bunts 37, a bunts 38, nairn 63, and nairn 64 subfolders, each with a set of texts. Let's look at the bunts 37 text. You'll see there's a bunts 37A PDF. This is the text that was extracted straight from the PDF, and it's the same as the ABBYY text. However, this is what's generated by PDF to text, whereas this is what is supplied by archive.org. Bunts 37C are the results of Tesseract at 150, 400, and 400 PPI, in this case, enhanced. D is the result of running this material against Transcribus at 150 points per inch, 400 points per inch, and 400 augmented. And then this E file is the actual correct text. This is what I would expect from an OCR service. Now, in your subdirectory, there are these HTML files, bunts 37 results compared. Let's open that up. This is a special tool that I've been working on through the Text Alignment Network, my major XML project. This service will take any number of files, any number of versions of the same file, collate them, and compare them. In this case, all of the files that I mentioned before are listed here, along with links to where they actually are, with statistics indicating how close they are to each other. The aggregate is, as you see, 60.8%, and there are quite a lot of differences in this particular text. It's perhaps not the best thing to look at. And here you can see where they differ from each other. If you've seen red-lined word texts, this may remind you of that. When you hover your mouse over any one of those changes, you'll see a list of the sigla that attest to that particular reading. There's a little bit too much noise, and so if you want to get rid, say, of the AABBY text, you can isolate it down by removing those. Perhaps you want to even get rid of the tesseract text and look only at transcribus against the corrected text. And if you want to change the focus, you can click on this and it will change the green or the reds depending on which text you're particularly interested in. Now, there's a chart here called pairwise similarity. This is a very helpful diagnostic tool to tell you how close your versions are to each other. It's a pairwise table, so all the versions appear in both the rows and the columns, with the figures representing the percentage of similarity. In this case, the texts that are closest to the majority are at the primary position, furthest left or furthest top. Bunts 37A is closest to the AABBY reader at 90.5% accuracy. And then it nosedives down into the 40s, 30s, and so forth. Bunts 37 corrected, that's the one we're really interested in because this is the benchmark. This tells you how close everything got to it. And you see that version A got 57.3% accuracy, version B 60. Tesseract at 150 DPI got 79.9% accuracy, at 400, 74.8, 71.2. I take that back. This is not Tesseract. This is Transcribus. So the best results, the ones that came closest to the corrected version, were Transcribus. It's 79.9%. It's a little bit easier to see this on the second page of Bunts. In this case, actually, here's everything all at once. You see a lot more black, and that's because there's a lot more agreement among the different versions. Here, when we look at the pairwise similarity chart, we'll see that the closest to each other were Transcribus at 400 DPI and enhanced, and Transcribus at 400 DPI unenhanced. Again, we're interested in how close we got to the corrected versions. And we see that there was 97% agreement with Transcribus, which is actually quite remarkable. When you're doing OCR work, you want to definitely get into the 90s. 95 and higher makes it worthwhile to do OCR. Below 95, it's questionable. It depends upon the language you're working with and how tough it is to type it. In many cases, when you get to the 90% level and you say you're working with a Latin-based alphabet, it's actually done, it's more expedient for you to just retype it by hand and check your work rather than correcting 10% of the characters. Once again, you can see there's quite a lot of agreement. When we look at the two best versions for page 38, that is Tesseract's best version against the corrected version, you could see where things go awry. Fame instead of same, fame masters instead of same masters, foe instead of so, and that's because of that unusual S ligature that appears in the text. The story changes when we look at the Greek. Let's look at page 64, which is the second page of Greek. And you'll see it's a sea of red and green because of how different the texts are from each other. We look at the pairwise similarity chart and we focus on the corrected version, and we see that the best came through Tesseract at 300 DPI and 92.6% agreement, which is not bad. I think it could be improved, but you'll see when we focus our report on just the corrected version and Tesseract, why some of those things happen. Align. When we put them side by side, you can see that there's a ghost line that appears. Some of the carriage returns get included as well. Some of the problems occur in the apparatus criticus. We have a diacritical here that's off, another diacritical that's off. It's in the mix of the Greek and the Latin that you get some of your most prominent confusions. This E instead of an H. And again, what you might consider trash characters really throw things off. There are ways to develop things. Again, through the Tesseract website, you can see ways to enhance your images and improve your quality. I recommend you work on these benchmark pages a couple of times until you get the setting that you're comfortable with.